Hello, someone salam ase. Achido man Steve Jobs laga kisa sai sabo. Taido hole Apple company laga co-founder ase aro next idu software technology khan laga bi co-founder ase aro Bezer idu tala chairman bi ase idu ani tala kisa tai 2005 di Stanford University take commencement address di graduation di student hanji encourage koro le karne take matisi aro dai tati mating na dai ko do khali itia video di bishi viral ase 3.7 crore views ase itoni dai tala kisa to kinika inspirational motivational hoise aro dai ki koshi man achido idu react grobo itu no ha ki moi khatara tinta kisa tala life testimony aro motivate koro le karne dai koina ase idoni itu tinta achido khatara sai sawon tai first quad hole connecting the dots itu koina ase tai after college di join kursi to pachudi after choi moina 6 months pachudi dagi itu expel kursi itu college pra to moi sob to nokobo heli khata ro ko dese to tai itu ha pachudi tai to ta laka kisa ta laka life story do hole bisi ki ko complicated ekta ase kintu dai bacha baina tala original parents kan ba bodap korna manu ki tina inia manu la khoti bua manu ekta takse aro dai college tv expel korna aro dai potul khan ko kola la potul khan othaina hodai daily bread karne pat khole karne na kuri takse Macintosh itu Apple la company nishna se itu design kurole la dai itu calligraphy to learn kurse dai course lose aro itu dai learn ha pa jodi pichedi aro Apple company join kurole parse itu lo karne to the second life story dai ko to love and loss itu dai aro Apple company di join kurse itu pa jodi Apple company na nichor company prahi ta ki itu aro fired kurse aro tate bi ta expel hoise to tala umur 30 years ti ta expel kurse aro tati bi drop up korna tai notun tai ko to hole he became a beginner inia kose aro tai creative innovative idea khana aro bishi aise kose to tati tala makibi paijase aro tai tati after 5 years picture itu picture do animated video khan bana laka ase itu tai itu bi found kurse aro itu tai itu han practice kuri takse aro tati company join kurse aro itu one of the best animated audio in the world ida hoje ri tinta tai ko to hile date murala itu bi koina ase to murala ko to hile tai 17 years umur da khatam di tai ekta quotation bishi bal lagise kose to itu quotation to hile live as if you were to die today mo short break ko dese achi muribole nishinai thakiwe itu la quotation ekta dai 17 years ina thaktam di itu inspired ko jase to dai hodai mir di 33 years dai mir di hodai sabo aro ai hamu achi murishe kole moi ki korole paribo iniga itu dai nicho reflect korna motivate kori thakise kose itu ani dai bal itu kam korole parise kose itu ani dai encourage kora to tai iniga tha karni tai success hobole parise koise itu ani tai ko to kon bi muribole mun nai aro even ida murile heaven jabo soko jabo inia manwan bi muribole mun nai itu ani khatai thakibo khata thakatam di apni ki korole pari ase itu value life value to hobo lage inia manula opinion ban thakibi aro manula suggestion ban apni ki korole pari ase itu kurbo lagi have faith in yourself ina koche nicho faith thakibo lage nia dai kwa laka aro last dai stay hunger stay foolish ina koina se itu sob moi last dai kila matlab ra koche mohan itu video react kora pachuti mohan itu khuni pawo to one ita reaction video.
Today I want to tell you 3 stories from my life. That's it. No big deal. Just 3 stories. The first story is about connecting the dots. I dropped out of Reed College after the first 6 months, but then stayed around as a drop-in for another 18 months or so before I really quit. So why'd I drop out? It started before I was born. My biological mother was a young, unwed graduate student, and she decided to put me up for adoption. She felt very strongly that I should be adopted by college graduates, so everything was all set for me to be adopted at birth by a lawyer and his wife. Except that when I popped out, they decided at the last minute that they really wanted a girl. So my parents, who were on a waiting list, got a call in the middle of the night asking, "We've got an unexpected baby boy. Do you want him?" They said, "Of course." My biological mother found out later that my mother had never graduated from college and that my father had never graduated from high school. She refused to sign the final adoption papers. She only relented a few months later when my parents promised that I would go to college. This was the start in my life. And 17 years later, I did go to college. But I naively chose a college that was almost as expensive as Stanford. And all of my working class parents' savings were being spent on my college tuition. After 6 months, I couldn't see the value in it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life and no idea how college was going to help me figure it out. And here I was, spending all of the money my parents had saved their entire life. So I decided to drop out and trust that it would all work out okay. It was pretty scary at the time, but looking back, it was one of the best decisions I ever made. The minute I dropped out, I could stop taking the required classes that didn't interest me and begin dropping in on the ones that looked far more interesting. It wasn't all romantic. I didn't have a dorm room, so I slept on the floor in friends' rooms. I returned Coke bottles for the 5-cent deposits to buy food with. And I would walk the 7 miles across town every Sunday night to get one good meal a week at the Hare Krishna temple. I loved it. And much of what I stumbled into by following my curiosity and intuition turned out to be priceless later on. Let me give you one example. Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Throughout the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I had dropped out and didn't have to take the normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historical, artistically subtle in a way that science can't capture, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I had never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have them. If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path, and that will make all the difference. My second story is about love and loss. I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I had let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle. My third story is about death. When I was 17, I read a quote that went something like, "If you live each day as if it was your last, someday you'll most certainly be right." It made an impression on me, and since then, for the past 33 years, I've looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. No one wants to die. Even people who want to go to heaven don't want to die to get there. And yet, death is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it. And that is as it should be, because death is very likely the single best invention of life. It's life's change agent. It clears out the old to make way for the new. Right now, the new is you. But someday, not too long from now, you will gradually become the old and be cleared away. Sorry to be so dramatic, but it's quite true. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Stay hungry, stay foolish.
So, thank you. Eti man listen learn kro le piche se ekta duta ko di mun cha se tai ko do give up na kro lage edu ko ase manu la opinion din na thakibo lage originally ekta thakibo lage aro life to khata ase give up na kurbi edu ko ase edu man edu aro reflect kuri sa lage everything happens for a reason man ki olibe man la life failures to manu ase failure hobole ase kun manu bi bal nai bab manu ase noile failure kurbole ase edu to man la life ase ole man give up na kurbo lage edu ta encourage korole mun chai ase ki happen olibe aro dadi stuck no korna aro alak ki learn korole mun chai ase apni ki interest ase edu continue to progress tai ko to edu learn hobole khusis kuribi edu kobole mun chai ase live na thakibo edu ni purpose ekta thakibo lage aro invest time to invest hobo lage fulfillment korole kani mala time to invest korbo ko ase aro dai ko to impress failure and learn from it mala failure ki ase edu impress kor lage edu crave korina aro dati bra man ki shikibole paribole ase shikibo lage setback aro challenges khan to hile opportunity mala life di grow korole kani man edu progress hobole kani man bal hobole kani mala setback challenges to ai thakibo holibi dadi man stuck na korbo lage edu dai ko mon jase authenticity to thakibo lage live authenticity be true to yourself originality ekta thakibo lage duplicate na thakibo la manu la duplication ina na thakibo lage originality ekta thakibo lage aro trust yourself man niche ki mohan niche trust korbo lage ina hoshule hoi jabo regardless of what society might say man naka manu khan toile kor manu khan banoile society khan pra mosti manu khan ba itu ko idorni bishi bak to grow le na pare hole manu kwa laga nohoi hole man ki grow le pare ase bal kar do continue grow failure hobole pare mistake hobole pare holbi edu manu laga opinion din na takina manu pra inya ko inya na bhabi na nijor ki grow le pare se grow like value time appreciate the present and make the most of moment man la time to be precious ase edu khani edu present time to appreciate hobo like keep shikibole pare se paratak shikibole keep learning is never too late while we still alive man zinda thaka takto hole edu kitia bi late no hoy mala naka mano do 10 fail 12 fail hoshibole eta to hoise pura hoise sati kurbo dale eta to try no kurbo inia bishas exam can be competitive exam and we keep on trying one life taka takto one try korole parbo that the isor bi mon ti moto koro above all trust God have faith in God isor ki mon Christian as a Christian man isor ki pratna korbi trust korbi ina hoshibole mala failure dibi tai thakibo aro mala success dibi tai thakibo kana. Thank you for watching till then. God bless you.